Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to your very best podcast, Gen Z and Politics. Here we talk about relevant issues that affect the country and the role of young people in all of it. Today, I'm honored to have Dr. Damian, a political analyst. Welcome, sir. And
Thank
it's
you.
a privilege to have you once again in the show. Today, we are talking about very important topic, having a very important discussion about the 2023 election. I'm looking at the security irregularities, the security challenges we had at the polling units, at the even before the election. What was the expectation going into the 2023 election? Do you think citizens expected the kind of challenge we had in the past election?
Okay, thank you. 2023 elections, I can classify the security of 2023 elections under three trilemmas.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one will look at pre-election security challenges,
Mhm.
election security challenges, and the
Okay.
post-election security challenges. Now, all of them is just like a compendium coming to influence the outcome of results,
Right.
because they are all interlocked or interrelated.
That's true.
Now, for instance, pre-election security challenges like instead of attack,
Mhm.
intimidation of opposition, or even banditry, insurgency, terrorism as a pre-election security challenges
Mm.
equally influence turnout of voters,
Yeah.
equally influence even the ability of people to come out and vote. Because a lot of territories in Nigeria before that 2023 elections were actually hotspots
Okay.
for various attacks. So those hotspots for various attacks, the number of electorate that actually turned out to come and vote were actually minimal, because now before that election, you hear security reports or security advice like do not gather in a particular place, do not do this. And people expected that maybe as we are out to vote, a lot of things can actually happen, and maybe the military will not be able to protect us.
Yeah.
Even though the federal government did a lot of things to make sure that actually for people to come out to vote. But in security, there is actual security, which is the feeling of actual safety.
Okay.
So security is somehow it's psychological.
Mm-hmm.
You can be safe, but you still feel that maybe something can happen.
Yeah.
So, and because of that, pre-election security situations can affect elections. For instance, if in a particular ward, maybe 24 hours before elections, people have been killed, people have been attacked, oppositions have been Myanmar or something like that, you will notice that these are pre-election security issues that actually can affect people coming out to vote. Now, looking at post-election security challenges, then you see a widespread of voters' intimidation, especially in Lagos State, especially in battleground states. There are voters' intimidation, ballot boxes were snatched, people that are assumed to be loyal to a particular candidate were just attacked. And it became so absurd that maybe security sectors or the security agency were not proactive enough in responding to such attack. And again, when you equally looked at it, you see that equally security threats that actually happened that time weren't actually all physical. They are threats on social media, threatening people if you come out to do this. In fact, there is a popular slogan, Lagos is for Yorubas, it's not for anybody. They forget that the Constitution of Nigeria made it possible that if you are residing in a particular place, you can actually vote. In as much as you are equally paying tax. So when people come and pay tax in a particular place, you are paying tax, you don't have identity to pay tax, but when you come to voting your favorite candidate, you now see that you need a special identity to be allowed to vote. So these are election security challenges. Then when we now start looking at the post-election security challenges, Now, post-election security challenges can be psychological. Psychological in the sense that if you look at development trajectories, if you look at budgets, if you look at infrastructural development, there is this unwritten rule that every candidate that wins an election try to channel more infrastructure in polling units or regions that supported him more during the election.
That's true.
Now, federal character is ignored even in recruitment because the person believe, okay, this is my political base. Now, if that could be interpreted as, okay, let me reward people who actually voted for me, but in actual sense, it has a security implication attached to it. Now, people start saying, okay, after this election, what happens to us? We didn't support you. What happened to us? There is fear. There is this psychological insecurity of not belonging to a fold. Now, if you look at Buhari's election, Buhari, after the election, he came out and said, I belong to nobody, I belong to everybody.
I remember that
now,
statement.
That particular statement solved that post-election security. And then post-election security can equally be looked at from the prism of how is the vote being counted? How the vote being counted? Now, but again, apart from how the vote being counted, the ballot boxes did they arrive at the collection center safely? Now, people who conducted election were they being able to go back to their homes safely? Because you see a scenario whereby people kept on receiving threats even after election, especially INEC staff that play maybe strategic role in different elections. This constitutes post-election insecurity.
So, Mr. Jimian, I like that you just mentioned INEC, right? And of course, this is the body that's expected to govern this whole process from the planning and all of that, execution and all of that. So, what do you think was their contribution to all of this, to the security issues? Were there like tangible efforts made to contain the challenge that happened in the past election?
Yeah, now, it is important for you to note that INEC does not, indirectly, INEC does not actually have a hand in deployment of security architectures during election. Indirectly. Now, they contribute little on election security, indirectly. Indirectly. I'm mentioning indirectly when you look at security during elections as deployment of security agency, there is something we call hardcore or hard approach to security. If you look at it from deployment of police, military, and a lot of security agencies or gadgets to ensure that people vote peacefully at the poll, you will see that legally INEC has little or nothing to do. But when you look at security as a convoluted sector or a convoluted phenomenon, election security as a convoluted phenomenon, you now notice that INEC actually even have a hand in election security.
I think they
in convoluted sector now, we'll now start looking at there is always a growing trend of people producing result sheets
even
in a polling unit. People, you see different result sheets flying. You see people trying to represent INEC. It's happened in Taraba, it's happened in Adamawa states in 2023 elections. Now, when you look at security from that prism of security of material, trying to say, okay, this material we are bringing, this is the authentic one, nobody can forge this. It cannot fly, nobody can duplicate this. You are now looking at security from that institutional perspective of INEC. Now, if you look at security now from that prism again, say, okay, how does INEC make sure that the material under their custody gets to the polling unit safely and equally return back? How does INEC make sure that, okay, these elections are organized in such a way that people vote freely, without intimidation.
Intimidation.
Now, the security of polling units is INEC, because it is arranged in such a way that uniform officers or security agencies stay far away from the polling units.
Yes.
So it is the duty of INEC to secure these polling units. And that's why I said, if you look at it from different perspectives, INEC has a role to play in security during elections, but in a critical way, or maybe deploying security in different places. INEC lack that constitutional power to say, okay, we are deploying security at this place to ensure that this happens.
Okay, there was a very popular situation that happened the past election where we have uniform men in at the polling units, which are not real uniform men, but then there are rumors that okay, these people came from opposition parties to intimidate voters, but in real sense, they are not real policemen or let's say army, you know. And then you begin to ask yourself, what really was the issue? What led to that? Was it? And then again, we discovered that even when the issue was raised on social media, of course, nothing was done about it.
Now, I want to
with evidences. But
I want to let you know something about what is actually happening in this country as far as politics is concerned.
Okay.
Now, Anambra had their election recently, and a lot of people were arrested for vote buying by EFCC. EFCC said they arrested people for vote buying. Now, since after that arrest, have you heard anything about those arrests?
No.
Now, in 2023 elections, people were arrested for vote buying. Nobody have heard anything about them. In 2023 election, MCO No More came out publicly and threatened a particular set of people.
That
have you heard anything about that?
Nothing.
Now, let me tell you, security of election, or from the angle you are going, it depends on who that non-state actor is working for. I call them a non-state actor, because you said people wearing clothes that they are not security officers. Who are they working for?
Exactly.
Now, knowing who they are working for will now tell you, okay, are they going to be prosecuted? In fact, from record, any place that election is happening in Nigeria, and you see irregularities, violence, and intimidation by security agencies, once it's happened, records has actually shown that they work for the government in power. Because there have never been an evidence that maybe you have never heard that, okay, so and so officer was sacked because of his role in the election. It's anytime you see the government prosecuting anybody because any security agency, because of the activity he played during the election, know that that person is working for the opposition. But is it actually even permissible for a security agent to work for the opposition during an election?
That is
now,
angle.
If you look at the command structure, the president is the commander-in-chief.
That's right.
Of the armed forces. Governors do not issue orders to the military. Even though there is a provision in the constitution that a security expert will call it military assistant to civilian person, and military assistant to civilian authority, MACA and MAPI. But does it actually work? Now look at what happened in Kebbi State. The Kebbi State governor, as at yesterday, made a broadcast that before the people were kidnapped in that school, there was an order to withdraw the military.
Exactly.
The military withdrew 30 minutes before they were kidnapped.
And then you ask yourself, who made
the
order?
This man has been on channel television asking who actually gave order for the military to be withdrawn.
And the funny part is the fact that you don't hear anything.
The military is like a mafia. Even sometimes the politicians are even afraid to get involved, to investigate what happened within the military because of they will tell you that security is secret, or let me say that defense should be kept secret and a lot of things. And Nigerian politicians are even very, very careful at dappling what happens within the military sector, security sector. But apart from that, if you understand the command structure of our security forces, how these commands are given, you equally understand that a security personnel interfering in an election is equally giving order through such command structure. Because now, if he's not giving order through that command structure, maybe we must have heard that so and so security personnel was actually tried, brought to court, dismissed because of his rules and all those things. Those who fall apart are those who were acting on their own. But those who didn't fall apart were actually acting based on such command structure.
So looking at this, Dr. Damian, it is obvious and evident that there were actually security challenges in the past election. So I want to ask, what was the role of this in terms of voters turnout?
Yes, security situations, both pre-elections and post-election security crisis, actually have serious positive correlation on voters turnout. Because, like I said before, polling units that experienced violence, ballot box snatching, intimidation, widespread violence, most resource sheets were actually destroyed. And because those resources were destroyed, data on whoever voted in that polling unit, INEC does not have it. Then apart from that, now pre-election violence, both violence and threats on social media, actually kept a lot of people at home. Because these violence are targeted. For instance, Lagos State, for instance, after the presidential election, the governorship election that happened in Lagos State 2 weeks after, the presidential election, the world saw a lot of targeted messages towards a lot of people. A particular ethnic group, the Igbos, were actually threatened not to come out and vote. And it was evident on the result of that election. The result of that election shows that there is actually, even in the total number of voters, we didn't even match the number of people that came out to vote in the first election, which means a lot of people stayed at home. Now, equally, a lot of people stayed at home because of that threat of violence, don't come and vote, this and that. And then when you look at states, other states like Kaduna State, where there is this unwritten rule that a particular denomination, maybe Christian denomination, can never produce a governor of this state. The security there takes a religious nature. Now forcing a particular people not to stay at home, even though they are still indigenous of that state. The people of Southern Kaduna stayed back. Then, apart from people of Southern Kaduna staying back, there are equally evidence that people of different religious groups, maybe living in a Muslim-dominated areas, actually equally stayed back because of white threats. And in fact, politicians use this as a motto because they see that when people are blinded by ethnic clots, their agenda always thrives. So, election pre-security, post-security, and election day security has a serious impact on voters' turnout and people actually coming out to vote during elections.
Let's look at the 2027 election, the forthcoming election. You know, we have this current issue going on in the country right now in terms of banditry, terrorism, and all of that. Can there be an action that will be taken by INEC or the government to like?
Now, there is something. I want to tell you about 2027 election. As of today, there won't be 2027 election.
How do you mean, sir? Okay.
Maybe things may improve tomorrow. But the highest threat to 2027 election is not banditry. The highest threats of 2027 election will be weak activities on PDP.
Okay.
And other weak activities on PDP, which is designed to make sure that there is no credible opposition.
That is true.
That is number one threat. Not even banditry, not even terrorism. The way the ruling party is going about preparing election. In fact, I want to let you know that the ruling party started preparing for election, not following the electoral timetable, because INEC regulates when campaign starts and when it ends before the election.
Yeah.
In fact, the ruling party started campaigning within 1 year. It was inaugurated, and then let me tell you something. I know of a student, and I want you to ask me why.
Okay.
I know of a student that wants to take an exam, and he has been given a power to choose the teacher that will set the exam for him. He has been given the power to pay the teacher that will set that exam, and he has equally been given the power to sack that teacher that will set the exam for him if he wills. If you tell me this student, I will tell you why there might not be election. If you don't know, I will tell you.
Please tell me.
The teacher is INEC.
Okay.
So if you know how INEC chairman was actually selected, you will now know the student. So Nigeria cannot be serious on electoral security when candidates that wants to participate in an election has the power to appoint INEC chairman. The insecurity or the continual politicalization of INEC key appointments, even though in political science there is something we call legal injustice. Because some of my legal friends will tell me, yes, it is legal, it is in the constitution. Yes, it can be legal, it can be in the constitution, but it's still an injustice. It doesn't make sense. Now, this is the foremost threat to election security.
Interesting.
Now, before you start looking at bandits, now, more than 41 schools in this country has been shut down.
Yeah.
Because of threats of bandits kidnapping that is happening. In more than 1 week, 3 key kidnappings attacks were made in school. Now, that is why I tell you that if you say election to happen today, nobody will come out and vote.
That is true.
And when government come out and say, okay, give an order, close down schools, you see a guardian who is unwilling, a shepherd who is unwilling to come out in the foremost and defend the sheep. And what he now does is, the sheep, you can now go asleep. And now my question is, closing down the school, does it guarantee security?
No.
They can be kidnapped in their villages.
Exactly. Or in their homes. Yes.
Do you understand? That's why I said, when a shepherd now say, okay, stop pasturing, the sheep has to go back to
base.
Do you understand? Now, does it guarantee security? We can as well come to the houses and pick them up. So what I'm trying to say is that the foremost thing that threatens election is weekend meddling with PDP, political meddling that is trying to cripple all form of opposition. Now, I won't be surprised, as a political analyst, I won't be surprised on election day, when we call for presidential election, we'll have one candidate. I won't be surprised. And that is the core threat to election and core threat to the democracy. Before we start looking at bandits, ethnicism, social media. Now, in fact, I equally discovered that a lot of political parties and candidates have social media minions and foot soldiers that try to threat each other to make sure that even keep on pushing threats and false narratives, propagandas that are very divisive to the very democratic foundation of this country. And all those things are compendium of threats, security threats towards 2027 elections?
As we try to wrap up this session, let's look at the technological aspects. Look at the beavers. What really happened? Because I know during towards the election, we had many hopes. Citizens had many hopes that yeah, this could be the miracle we are looking for. And then it all happened. We all saw what happened. Just take us through that process.
There is something I want to let you know. You see, Nigeria has a way to wither down the effects on something using grammars.
Okay.
They'll just look for a word and wither down the effects of things. There is one popular pidgin English when I was in secondary school. They say, I don't palm am. Do you still? No, I didn't say, but I palm am. A prostitute will tell you that he's a ronskier, right? These are. Then INEC came up and said technical glitches. Now, but there is something that I want people to know. Your son, or let me say it this way. Your son approached you and said, Daddy, I want to buy a pen that I'm going to use to write my exams. Yeah. And you don't have money to buy a pen. And you now borrowed money and give your son money to buy a pen.
Okay.
He went to the market and bought a pen. And back home, he will tell you, Daddy, with this pen, I'm going to finish all my exam before time. So, after the exam, he now comes back and you tell you, Daddy, I felt the pen is not necessary. I have to use pencil. How do you feel? This is the heart of deception of INEC. INEC came, Nigeria budgeted billions of naira to make sure that these technologies were working. INEC assured all Nigerians that, so they do those that with this technology, we are there.
Yeah.
Nigeria had hope. People came out to vote. And after voting, they now tell us that legally, it's not mandatory that this result should be transmitted to the IRF. A serious government should be probing INEC chairman.
Yeah.
Immediately that comment should be made. A serious government should now ask, okay, who pays the loan? These are taxpayers' money. We borrowed this money, we procure this. We say, okay, we use this to conduct this election. And you're coming out to tell us it's not mandatory. So apart from that, I will equally say, okay, that there are equally incidents of legal or even judicial insecurity. Because the judiciary has actually given credence to a lot of injustice within the system.
Okay.
Through their interpretations. In fact, the 2023 election witnessed a lot of interpretation of laws that is so funny.
Honestly.
You'd see courts giving injunction, counter-injunction, trying to contradict themselves. And history will not forget that election.
Yeah.
It is only in that election that a politician that didn't participate in primary election, won election. I'm talking about the former Senate President, Adamu, the former Senate President, who didn't participate in primary election. In fact, it is only in that election that a candidate was vying for a particular seat at the same time. Because Adamu was a presidential candidate, and when he lost the primaries, he came and and he came and said that he's now the flag bearer of his senatorial seat. So, and court actually gave verdict on this. And that brings us to asking questions, which I always ask my learned friend. Why should the courts, in clear cases of injustice, rely on procedural justice over substantial justice in giving verdicts, even when they know that this is a case of a national interest? Since 1960 to date, it was only in that case that a candidate never participated in primary, and became a flag bearer.
It's great having you around, and thank you for sharing more light on this particular topic. Security is our responsibility as citizens, as government. We must put hands together to make sure that our forthcoming election is free of all of these challenges we've experienced in the past election. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us. This is Gen Z and Politics. See you in our next episode. Thank you.